going to move to what we have as a very exciting opportunity at this point in time to really hear from the City of Louisville, their 2025 plan that they're unraveling before us, and to kind of present to you how this is going to unfold is that Councilman T.J. Gilmore is going to come up and give some opening remarks, and our speaker today is Karen Waltz, and she is with Principal in Strategic Community Solutions, a professional consulting firm that helps clients build successful and sustainable communities. She's with the company that the City of Louisville has hired to assist with this program. And Ms. Waltz brings over 35 years of professional analysis, community involvement, and strategic planning and policy expertise to her projects. Her work experience includes East and West Coast communities, as well as Texas, the Midwest, and Western U.S. Clients include cities, counties, metropolitan regions, and nonprofit organizations. Her work has been recognized with numerous awards, including the American Planning Association's Innovation in Sustaining Places Award for the North Texas 2050 Vision in Action document. Karen Waltz received a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Earth Sciences from Stanford University and a Master of City and Regional Planning from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. She was inducted as a Fellow of the American Institute of Certified Planners in April 2006. Please help me in welcoming Karen Waltz with Leadership Systems to the stage to offer our presentation here today. Thank you. TJ. Let me make a clarification. This is...
Hi, I'm Karen.
This is Karen. No, TJ.
No, it's all built. No, we're good. We're good.
Appreciate that.
No, thank you guys. So they'd asked me to just kind of kick this off for Karen. So she's going to give you the detail. I'm going to give you the heart. So just a quick. I wanted to get a quick test here this morning in honor of STAR testing, which all three of my children are having to deal with. So you all are going to have to deal with my disgruntlement. How many in here plan? Just show of hands. Insurance. You've got a calendar. Will, business plans. Anybody? If you're not seeing hands going up, there's business opportunities here, guys. Okay. How many plan for vacation? Okay. How many of you plan to be here? Planning. It's part of what we do in our day-to-day life. How many were involved with the strategic plan for the ISD? How many were involved with the strategic plan here for the chamber? Okay. Well, Louisville has a plan. And our goal is to figure out what we want to be when we hit 100. I don't know about you, but that would be a cool goal to plan for. So some thoughts here on why planning. Why are we doing this? And why are we talking to the chamber about it? So a few just quick thoughts here. In 2010, we had our plan. We had a strategic plan that was designed in 99 through 2010. Some of you were involved on that. I see a couple of hands. Well, my first contact with that plan was serving on the Community Development Block Grant Committee. And that plan helped me as a resident say, what does the what does the community as a whole want from these tax dollars, from these funds? Where do they want them to go? What do they want to see? And that helped give me a strategic view, not a tactical view, not a short-term view, not just a pop on somebody who was loudest, but what does the community want? And so that turned into things like growth and facilities for CCA and for PD Place and some of those other organizations that you all donate and spend your time and hard-earned money helping. But it helped create that net for our seniors. You know, we don't have a lot of seniors that necessarily come up to City Hall, but when I go out to our senior center, I see the impact of our dollars. And that demographic is doing nothing but growing. And it's going to impact our city over the long term. So we need to make sure that we are positioned, not just as a city, but as a council, as a staff, to provide the services that are necessary for a high quality of life. To give you a little bit of perspective on Louisville and what our 2010 plan gave us, it gave us Old Town. Anybody remember that place before the budgets that we were able to deal with and working with the business community, pretty run down. And if you haven't seen it, take a look. We've got some great pictures in our planning department. You can see the before and after. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a lovely place to come and spend some time, and we encourage you to do it. Great tax dollars. Thank you. But when you look at that, we also look at neighborhood improvements, and these are things you don't necessarily see. But massive sewer and water line reconstructions within some of our older parts of our city. You know, these are not short-term projects, and you don't think about it, but when your toilet works, that's quality of life, folks. Okay? You want to make sure that that's working well. Neighborhood revitalization. We redid curbs and gutters and other things within the neighborhoods that we have. And as Louisville, you know, we're an older town, so we have to go through that life cycle. Now, some other perspective, I was actually looking at the census board, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the change that we've had since, you know, the 2000 to 2010. Louisville has gained over 17,000 folks, residents, from 2000 to 2010. That's just the census numbers. That's 18% growth. And here we talk about Louisville being landlocked and not having a lot of room to grow and those types of things. Folks, Denton is the 27th fastest growing city in Texas. Highland Village, 179th. Flower Mound, 50th. Louisville, 33rd. 33rd fastest growing city in Texas. If we don't plan, we fail. So what we're asking you today, and you'll get some more information, we're asking you as residents, as business professionals, as guides, to help us. Don't just wing it. We're not here to wing it, but we're here to ask of your professional expertise to help us grow, to help us plan for this in the ways that we need as residents, in the facilities that we need as entrepreneurs, as business owners, and just as people who want to come and visit. What would you like to see? When we're 100 years old, do you want to see a city that's the equivalent of decrepit and in a walker? Or do you want to see a city that is vibrant, that's exciting, that's a great place to do business? The only way we're going to get there is with your help today. So we really appreciate you taking the time. There's a wonderful survey that we've got, 2 surveys. They'll take maybe 30 minutes total if you have a lot to say. You can go to cityoflouisville.com, and you've got a bookmark here on your desk. I'd encourage you, take this, wander to your friends, your colleagues, let them know, hey, go over here, find this logo, click on it, and there's 2 surveys. Also, there's an opportunity there where it says where you can get involved to be on and serve on one of the committees. So we'll give you a little bit more detail as we go from that. But I encourage you, I love this city, folks. I love what it does for me. I love what the school district does for my family. I love what the business community does to help me keep the tax rates low. I appreciate you, and I really need your help. So if you would, be a champion for this like I've been since 2009 and like our council has been when they allocated the funds to be able to do this. That's all we're asking, just a little bit of leadership. Thank you.
Hi, I'm TJ. I'm going to set my glass down there for a minute. I'm just getting off of a bad sore throat, so pardon me if I need to get a little drink now and then. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm so excited about the start of this process to see what kind of a community Louisville wants to be when it hits 100. That's quite a milestone, and it's a great thing to think about and to shoot towards as we look at the future of this community. And what I'd like to do today is build on what some of what TJ told you about, give you a little more background on the ideas of planning and visions for communities, and then tell you specifically about this particular project and what the timeline is going to be and so forth. So with that, let me start on the purpose. Obviously, I saw lots of hands going up when TJ asked if you did planning for yourselves or for your business. It's just as important that we plan for our community, for the places where we live and work and play and enjoy. And so the idea for this Louisville Vision 2025 is going to be really to set that vision, set that course and direction for the city, looking far ahead. You've accomplished a lot with the plans in the past, and now it's time to really look ahead and do that again and look at the things that have changed since the last time a plan was done for Louisville. A couple of outcomes, as you can see on the slide. First, a guide for managing growth and change. When you hear about that level of growth, that's very impressive. It's also interesting that there are changes in the character, the personality, the kinds of folks that are here, and the kinds of businesses that are here. So Louisville really needs to have a plan and a vision to keep ahead of the curve and remain attractive to those folks. We want a reference point for decision making so that there's a guide that everybody, whether public or private sector, can look to it and see how does this particular choice or this particular investment fit in with the future we want here in Louisville. Really, it's kind of a to-do list, but over a longer period of time, not just for next year, but looking ahead into the long-term future. And these kinds of projects have been done and have been really successful, I think, and valuable in lots of different communities. And I want to spend just a couple minutes giving you a perspective from our North Texas region, and that is related to the Vision North Texas project. And I know some of you probably have been involved or may be familiar with this, but really the idea of this project was to look at a partnership, private sector, public sector, academic community, and look ahead at the growth that's coming to North Texas, which I'll show you in a moment, and really see how do we handle all that stuff. How do we deal with everything that's coming here? And one of the answers was we need to have kind of a game plan or a vision for that. And when I'm talking about North Texas, I'm talking about this 16-county region. So you can see Denton County right there in kind of in the middle of that map. And all of us are probably aware of the growth that has gone on here and that's going to continue growing. If you look at those numbers for the year 2000, we had about 5.3 million people, more than double that by 2050, almost 12 million people in this region by 2020, and a comparable number of jobs. So you picture things that you know today and imagine twice as many people. That's a big challenge, and that's the challenge that our region is facing. We spent a lot of time looking at research, and that's part of what we'll do at the beginning of this Louisville 2025 process too. And what we found out was if we keep doing the same old, the kind of business as usual, we run into some problems for our region. We have a lot of development that's going on outside of the existing communities, so it's not supporting the tax base and the programs and the projects and the businesses in those areas. We're using up a lot of land that otherwise might be in agriculture. We're creating problems for traffic, even though we're spending a huge amount of money on transportation projects. And by 2050, our water supplies won't be adequate for that growth. And that was even before the drought that's going on now and the kind of information we're seeing today about our water sources for the region. We asked stakeholders from all around the region about this future and other possible futures, and what we heard back was we want something that's better than that kind of business as usual. We want something that's more desirable, better quality of life, better business opportunities, and not those kind of constraints. The result of that was this document called North Texas 2050. And as Kelly said, our region was really honored to receive a national, very competitive award for this document as a vision for handling all of the growth that's coming our direction. So that's been a really important support and an important process. And what it does in part is it creates a vision for our region. So rather than looking at a vision that's constrained and that's struggling to deal with things, as I showed you on that earlier slide, it's a vision that's recognized worldwide because it has many distinctive and highly desirable communities. It supports innovative people and businesses, and it nurtures its varied assets. So what's been happening now, this is kind of a regional vision, a regional idea or game book, you might say. Cities around the region are looking at these ideas and are thinking about how do we apply these here? And nonprofits and academic groups are doing the same. So having a vision helps to give everybody a common goal to shoot for, a common way to work together to achieve a kind of future that's really much more desirable than what happens if we just do nothing and just kind of let things happen however the chips may fall. This has been a really important project for the region, but a region's a much bigger kind of a thing than a city, much bigger than an individual community. And obviously you have familiarity with good planning programs for your chamber, for your school district, but there are some other good ones for cities that I want to share with you. Many people are familiar with the plan for Chicago. This plan was developed by Daniel Burnham in 1909. And that's a long time ago. That plan has really been instrumental in creating the kind of community that exists today in Chicago.
The parks that you see along the waterfront there are part of what he developed in that plan way back in 1909. And that kind of planning has not stayed static. It's not something that's just in concrete. In fact, what's happened in Chicago in things like Millennium Park fits in with that framework that was started way back in 1909. So Chicago, one of the largest cities in the country, very successful business location, has really used planning to its advantage to create and shape a place that people want to come to and that businesses want to come to. On a much smaller scale, I'm sure that many of you have visited Fredericksburg down in the Hill Country, and you probably enjoyed the Main Street area and the combination of the historic buildings, all the shops, the restaurants, all the different things that are there. The Fredericksburg Comp Plan that you see here was adopted in 2006, and one of the things that it has helped that community to do is balance businesses that support the local folks with businesses that are attractive to tourists. That's not always an easy balance to get at, but their planning has helped them to do that and has helped them to come up with ways to maintain the character of that Main Street area so it continues to appeal to tourists. Another place that you may be familiar with is Kansas City, Missouri, a little north of us, if you keep going up on I-35. And the picture that you see here is Country Club Plaza, and this was taken just a few years ago. You can see it's a very vital shopping area. It's one of the main shopping places, I think, in that region. But interestingly, this is the result of a plan that was really led by the private sector, by the developer J.C. Nichols, and he actually started this in 1904. And he first platted out the plaza, the area you see here, in 1911. And it's because of the character, the design that they put in place, and the ongoing involvement that that company has had, that this remains one of the most appealing retail places in that whole region. And so that planning, in this case led by the private with public involvement, has been extremely successful from a commercial standpoint. Rowlett is a community that some of you are probably familiar with over to the east of you. A couple of years ago, I was involved with the process for them to do their planning, and they're in a little different situation than the places that I've just been telling you about. But we engaged the community, got the businesses and the residents involved. We developed what's called Realize Rowlett 2020, and what they found this to be useful for is to help set priorities. In Rowlett, as here, there are some areas that are developed and you want to just keep them the same. In other places, there is a need for reinvestment, and then there are still places that aren't developed yet at all. So what this Realize Rowlett has allowed them to do is set priorities for investment and for more detailed marketing and for more detailed economic involvement by the chambers and other groups. So it's really helped everybody come together and focus to be strategic about their investments and really achieve the vision that the community developed through that kind of a process. Last but not least, I'm sure you all spend time in Fort Worth, and of course Fort Worth is a really wonderful city. The downtown is great, Sundance Square, all those places are fantastic places to visit. They've also done tremendous things along the river, and any of you who've gone over there and gone walking or running along the Trinity, you know the recreational components that come into play. And they've got great neighborhoods too. They've got really desirable areas, including what they call their urban villages, which are revitalizing and newly appealing to people. And all of those come from the comprehensive plan that they developed. And in Fort Worth, they have a process where every year they review that and they update things and they see how they're doing and check on their progress. And so in that community, I think is a great example of having a plan and then working it, and then looking at what you're doing and where you're at, how you're going, what's working well, what's not, and use that as a touchstone so that you can continue your partnership, continue the success and progress. So all of those examples are more at the level of communities, and I think each of them has a particular lesson for us as we think about Louisville and we think about the kind of Louisville when it celebrates its 100th anniversary. Now, I often like to share with people a Japanese proverb that I think is really worthwhile for us as we are at a stage like this. And the proverb goes like this: vision without action is a daydream. Okay? Action without vision is a nightmare. And what we want to do is make sure that we don't have either a daydream or a nightmare as we look at the future of the city of Louisville. So what we're going to be doing with this process is building on those successes that you've had in the past and that TJ spoke about and that you all have been involved with at the Chamber and at the ISD. We hope that everyone in the community will be involved in this process for
Louisville Vision 2025. And you can see on the chart here, the City Council, of course, up at the top will be directing and overseeing the process. The citizens, the stakeholders, and the Chamber is an important stakeholder in terms of a project like this. But individual property owners, individual business owners need to be involved too. So we hope that you'll think about it from the standpoint of your own business as well as your role with the Chamber. And then the city staff and consultants will be providing expertise and helping things move smoothly and pulling together ideas that come from all of those other sources. The consultant team that the city of Louisville has hired is shown here, and I think it's going to be a really great team for this community. All the folks here are people who've worked together in the past, and I think we'll be able to work with you and with the city to really put together a plan that's a stunning and really valuable document and process for the city. Friesen Nichols is the lead consultant, and they are a firm that's been based in Fort Worth for decades, and they do planning as well as engineering and architectural design and other things, and they'll be taking the lead on the project. Along with Friesen Nichols, we have 3 sub-consultants. My firm, Strategic Community Solutions, will be involved in terms of the strategic planning and key public sessions like one I'll be telling you about in just a minute. Catalyst Urban Development is a company that is focused on private development and real estate economics, and so they'll be helping us to think about this from a realistic standpoint. This is not just a vision that's imaginary, but what are the real market opportunities that we ought to look at, and how can we take advantage of those as we look at the growth in this community. And then Townscape on the right-hand side focuses on urban design, and the folks at Townscape are really, really talented at coming up with not only the images but the strategies for how to get the kind of design that you want. And when you think about an area like Old Town, it's not enough to just say, well, we want this sort of a business. The character of the place really matters, and so the urban design is an important part of this process, and Townscape will be bringing that component to our team. So all of us will be working with the city and with you to help figure out where you'd like to see yourselves be in 2025. And so with that, let me share briefly our approach to planning and our approach to this process. And you can see really from the arrow on this slide that that's really the direction that we see. Start with the vision. We need first the big picture ideas, the great thoughts, the ideas of, gee, what would you like if there were no limits? What kind of a community should this be if you weren't constrained? Where would you love to see it go? What's your vision that is, the kind of community that you would most like to tell people you live in 10 years from now, 20 years from now? So first starting with a big vision, and a vision that we hope we'll be able to get everyone to buy into. So it's a vision that's a shared idea of the future. From there, we need to have more specific goals, something that's more concrete, so that we can look at the particular issues and the particular opportunities that face this community. Then we'll go from there into strategies that are tangible acts and steps that we can take as a community to put that to achieve those goals. And then finally, the implementation, which is very detailed. Who's doing what? When are they doing it? What's the horizon for time? What are the results that we expect? So that we don't have either, as I showed you before, just the daydream or just the nightmare, but really that combination of things that will help this community continue the success that it's had. The schedule, and I know you can't read all of the writing that you see on that chart, but basically there are 3 major phases to the project. The first part, which we're in now, is data gathering and engagement, and that's really about research to understand the dynamics that are the past and the current and the potential future for Louisville, engagement of getting input from people like you and all the other folks who care about this community. The next part will be collaboration and analysis, where we'll be pulling all that together, looking at possible choices for the city and for the way it handles its growth, and analyzing those, looking at what the impact might be on things like the water supply and the park spaces and so forth. And then the last phase will be recommendations, review, and adoption of a document ultimately by the City Council. That timing will take about 15 months, so a little more than a year. And that's we're very determined to stay on that schedule and keep going, and that's actually quite a bit to do in that amount of time. So we're excited about it, and I think it's going to be a really great and really exciting process for everybody who's involved with it. When we get to implementation, as I said,
I've done lots and lots of plans for cities and places all over the country, and one of the things that's the worst possible result is somebody does a plan, they think it's great, everybody's worn out from having meetings, and then they put it on the shelf. And so what good was that? Not a whole lot of value coming from that. So tying implementation to the plan is really crucial. And so as part of this project, we'll be looking at things like you can see here in terms of action items and priorities. Now, we're not going to be able to line out every single thing for all the years between now and 2025. There's plenty of changes, and we're not going to sit down today and say, action item number 1 for the year 2022 is going to be such and such. But what we'll do is create a framework that can be updated as time goes on and as you're successful with things and as new opportunities come along, so that it'll be a document that moves forward. We need you to make this successful. That's really the bottom line. TJ said that to you earlier. I want to re-emphasize that. This won't be successful unless we have the engagement of people like you who care about the Louisville community. We need your vision. We need your imagination. We need your ideas about what's the best possible future for the Louisville community. We need your insights and expertise. There are many areas as far as the economy and as far as the businesses that you know much more about than anyone else. And there are lots of those opportunities facing the city, so we need your expertise to help make good choices about future public and private investments. We need your involvement and your dialogue with the other folks who care about this community, whether that's the arts community, hopefully the schools, neighborhood folks, residents, all those groups need to come together. We need you as individuals and as chamber members and as the chamber organization to be actively engaged in this dialogue and this discussion. There are 3 specific requests that I want to leave you with today. And since you've got the bookmarks, I hope you'll take that bookmark and it will remind you about these 3 requests. And while I'm speaking about those, also note the website there, and it's on the bookmark too, so that you can go there for more information after today's session. First, use the website, use social media, use any other tool you'd like to give us your input. As TJ said, there are 2 surveys that are live now. We encourage you to take those. We encourage you to send them out to everybody else and tell everybody you know to take those. Tell us what you think about the questions that are there. One is very open-ended questions, and one are more organized questions with multiple choice answers. So you can take your pick or you can do both. Second thing is to join us on June 4th in this building for our first Big Ideas workshop. The Big Ideas workshops are really intended to be innovative, interactive, lots of fun, but also very important places to gather information and the best ideas from everybody in this community. The Big Ideas workshop, you'll hear more about it, but basically 4 to 8 p.m. followed by a concert, so that's a pretty good deal. Finally, during the summer, we'll be having a set of committee meetings, and there'll be committees on different topics that come out of those big ideas. So I hope you will join those committees, participate actively, get involved in those, and help us to really figure out where we need to go as a community. What this city is like when it becomes 100 at its 100th birthday party is going to have a lot to do with your involvement and your ideas today. I appreciate the time to talk with you about it today. I really hope that you will be involved because we need you to make sure that the Louisville of 2025 is the best it possibly can be. Thank you very much.